Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa. I am 21 and I'm currently doing my fourth year of Linguist Studies at Autonomous University of Madrid. In this video, I will talk about the different holidays celebrated in the US and the differences or similarities between the US and Spain. With this I mean how they are celebrated in each country as the characteristic of each one. These holidays will be Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the Three Wise Men, and summer holidays. About Halloween, I will be talking about the origin, tradition, and the celebration in the US and Spain. About Thanksgiving, I will be talking about its origin, its tradition, for example, what do they eat and how it's celebrated. About Christmas, I will be talking about the customs, the present tradition, and the contrast between the US and Spain. About the Three Wise Men, I will be talking about customs, again, present traditions, and contrast between the US and Spain. And finally, I will be talking about the summer holidays in the US and Spain, which are very similar between them since it's the same amount of time. For you to know or to remember, Halloween is celebrated on the 31st of October. Thanksgiving is celebrated on the final Thursday of November. Christmas is celebrated on the 24th of December. The Three Wise Men is celebrated on the 6th of January. And finally, the summer holidays are celebrated from mid-June to early September. Since this video is a part of a subject in which I have learned to use the new technologies more efficiently, I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully you click the like button. Cheers! First, I will talk about Halloween and its origin. In case you didn't know, Halloween started as a celebration of a pagan Celtic festival called Samhain. In this festival, people made bonfires and wore costumes to revel with the ghosts as well as the bar spirits. Time after this, the Pope Gregory III designated November the 1st as a time to honor all saints and martyrs. From that moment, this holiday, known as All Saints' Day, incorporated some of the traditions of the Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows' Eve and later as Halloween. Over time, Halloween turned into a celebration dedicated most of all to kids, who dress up to make a very famous activity called Trick or Treat. This activity consists of children going to some houses in their neighborhood and asking the owners of the houses the remarkable question, trick or treat, so that they have to give them candies. Nowadays, there can be seen an economic reason behind this celebration, since a lot of companies make their profit by arranging parties for adults, by making candies, by selling pumpkins, or by selling the customs. As this celebration is dedicated for children, as I mentioned before, it is as well dedicated to adults, who usually attend private parties to spend the whole night drinking and dancing. In contrast with the US, we have another country in which this celebration is growing little by little, Spain. In Spain, we also have these parties dedicated for the adults, who go clubbing all night, but it's also celebrated in the schools so that the children can know a bit more of the British tradition as well as the British culture. However, I would say that the tradition of the trick or treat is not so famous as it's in the US. Now, I will start talking about Christmas. As you know, Christmas has a lot of history and is one of the most celebrated holidays all around the world. Why? Well, it's a holiday based on the Christian belief. It's a celebration of spending family and is dedicated most of all to children as well as adults who also feel excited about the celebration of this holiday. In the case of the US, I have been told that they have the present tradition, like giving presents to family and friends, on the 25th of December. The day before, on the evening on the 24th of December, people eat with their families to celebrate the festivity and reunite together in order to see all the members of their family. This celebration is very similar to the one we have in Spain, since we tend to celebrate surrounded by family, and the day after that, we usually open the presents. However, there is something that is more common in the US than in Spain, which is the decoration of the outsides of the houses with the lights, which is something beautiful, as well as leaving cookies and milk to Santa Claus under the chimney or under the tree. Here, for example, we don't have Santa Claus, but we have Papa Noel. Another thing that could be mentioned is that this holiday has turned into a materialistic one, since a lot of people celebrate it by buying presents and they forget about the real meaning of Christmas, which started with the birth of Christ on the 24th of December. However, it could be said that this holiday conveys a powerful message, since it makes people reunite with their families and be happy with them. I have talked about Christmas, but now I will start talking about Thanksgiving, which in my opinion is the most famous holiday in the US and Canada, since this holiday is only celebrated in these countries. First, I will tell you a little bit about the origin of this holiday so that you can know more about the history of the USA. For you to know, Thanksgiving started in 1620 when a group of British religious separatists arrived to an area near Cape Cod at the mouth of the Hudson River, now in the city of Massachusetts. They left Plymouth, England, in a ship called the Mayflower. In this journey towards what it was known as the New World, these religious separatists wanted to be able to practice their faith freely, as well as find prosperity and land ownership. 1 month later, the Mayflower crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims, as they are now commonly known, began the work of establishing a village at Plymouth. Due to the brutal winter, half of the crew of the Mayflower died. After this, the remaining Pilgrims were visited by an Indian who days later introduced them a Native American. This Native American, called Squanto, taught them how to survive in the New World by cultivating corn, extracting sap from maple trees, catching fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. Besides, he also gave them food, since the supplies brought from England were not sufficient. 1 year later, in 1621, due to the success of the first corn harvest, Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast and invited a group of Native American allies as a way to thank them for what Squanto did for them. Well, after having told this story, I will now talk about the way in which Americans celebrate Thanksgiving nowadays. This holiday is usually spent with family and friends and is celebrated in the final Thursday of November, which was established by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863. About the food that Americans usually eat, we have turkey, whether roasted, baked, or deep fried, as well as mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, or pumpkin pie. As I have been told, this holiday is something that makes Americans to feel proud of their nation as well as identity, and some people even compare it to the celebration of the 4th of July. Nowadays, the day after Thanksgiving, which is known as Black Friday, families and friends tend to go shopping together as a tradition to take advantage of the bargains that this holiday offers. Now, I will be talking about the summer holidays. This school holiday is a break between school years, which usually lasts around 3 months, being the longest break in the school year. This is from mid-June to early September, and In the middle of it, we have the celebration of the most famous holiday in the history of the USA. Which holiday am I talking about? Exactly, the 4th of July. In case you didn't know, the celebration of the 4th of July is due to the independence of the USA from Great Britain in 1776. Thomas Jefferson drafted the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July in 1776, while the American Revolution was taking place, which lasted from 1775 to 1783. As you can see, or you can listen, I have told you a little bit about the independence of the USA and its holiday, the 4th of July. So now I will be talking about the celebration of these summer holidays. These holidays are usually celebrated by teenagers who travel with friends or family, go out to party all night, or they just simply have fun and rest. This type of holiday or school break is very similar to the one we have in Spain, which also starts in mid-June and it finishes in early September. Due to the excessive heat we have in Spain during summer, schools have to be closed because students wouldn't be able to concentrate and they would be very tired. That's why many Spanish teenagers decide to travel with their friends to the beach in order to rest and run away from the heat. One of the most famous destinations is, for example, Magaluf in Mallorca, as well as Ibiza or Gandia. Teenagers also take advantage of these months of vacation and, for example, travel to European cities to have fun and discover new places and cultures. Regarding the cities teenagers usually visit are, for example, London in England, Dublin in Ireland, or for example, Rome, Italy. But some others decide to attend some music festivals in Spain as Primavera Sound, which is celebrated in Barcelona, BBK, which is celebrated in Bilbao, or Sonar, located in Barcelona, and one of the most famous is the Arenal Sound, which is in Castellón, in La Comunidad Valenciana. However, others decide to stay at home and rest by going to a swimming pool or going out at night with their friends while having a good time. As you probably know, this holiday is part of the religious tradition of Christmas. Why? Well, because the three wise men were the three people who gave presents to Jesus after he was born. Their names are Gaspar, Melchor, and Balthasar. Let's begin with the first one. Gaspar has brown hair and brown beard. He wears a green cloak and a gold crown with green jewels on it. He is the king of Sheba and he represents the frankincense brought to Jesus. Now we will talk about Melchior, who has long white hair and white beard. He wears a gold cloak and he is the king of Arabia. Melchior represents the gold brought to Jesus. And lastly, we have Balthasar, who has black skin and black beard, and besides he wears a purple cloak. He is the king of Tars and Egypt, and he represents the myrrh that was brought to Jesus. Now I will talk about a little bit of the history so that you can know more about the tradition of the Bible. So, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Judea, these three men arrived from the east to Jerusalem and asked about the location of the person who would be the king of the Jews. They admitted that they had seen his star and wanted to follow it in order to worship the king of the Jews. After this, King Herod found about this and deceived the three wise men, ensuring them that he wanted to worship that person, the child who is Jesus. In order to do that, he told them to go to Bethlehem to search for the child, and after that to report to him. After that, these three wise men went to Bethlehem, and in their way they encountered with the star they had seen, which was the element that guided them into the place where Jesus has been born. So now I will talk about the meaning of these three elements, which are gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold is associated with kings, and as Christian believes, Jesus is the King of the kings. Now, the frankincense is sometimes used up in worships in churches, and it's so that people would worship Jesus. Then we have myrrh. That is a perfume that is put on dead bodies to make them smell nice. And this showed that Jesus would suffer and die. Now, this has been the summary about the biblical story about the three wise men. But now I will talk about the tradition in the US. We can say that it's a holiday celebrated in most of all in America by Latinos living in the US who have a Catholic faith, or even Americans who are Catholics. This holiday is known as in the US as Epiphany, and as I said before, it celebrates the three wise men visits to the baby Jesus, and also remembers his baptism according to the Christian belief. In some parts of the USA, as California or the United States Virgin Islands, celebrate this holiday with many traditions as parades or performances, as well as eating the famous baked ram called Roscón de Reyes. People give presents to each other, which is the presents tradition, as it happens with Christmas, and the celebration of this holiday is very similar to the one we have in Spain, where children receive presents and we eat Roscón de Reyes with the family as well as hot chocolate on the 6th of January in the morning. This has been the presentation of the themes I have chosen, and now I will offer my personal reflection upon the significance that the subject has to me. In my opinion, this subject has been and is very useful for several reasons. It helps us to be in touch with the new technologies and to learn from them instead of being afraid of them. Also, it helps us to develop our creativity, and it has taught us to be more independent while working as well as teamwork skills. I also think that it helps us to be more responsible, and it allows us to organize the time we have since we have to do tasks each week. This subject is one of the key elements that will help us to create our future in a better way. Why? Well, because I think that it offers us a lot of things that we are going to apply if we are going to be teachers, for example, and some of the things we have learned can be applied in the classroom. Or, for example, if we are going to work in a company in which teamwork and new technologies are going to be essential, well, we can apply this. Before taking the subject, I didn't even know how to run a blog, or I didn't know what a Padlet was. Like, what is a Padlet? Well, I didn't know. But now, I know, since I already taken it. And I can see that I'm more confident when it comes to new technologies, because I know I don't feel lost. And on the other hand, I strongly believe that being able to do a tandem with a person belonging to another country, such as the US or another place, as well as another culture, allows you to be more open-minded and have less prejudices against people from other countries or nationalities. Because if I've been honest, when I was talking about Americans, I had some prejudices against them, such as that they are fat, or that they are fashion, or that they eat a lot of fast food like hamburgers or hot dogs. But now I realize that we don't have to generalize, because each person is different, and the stereotypes are something that we have to eliminate from this society. Another thing that I have learned from this subject is that it allows you to understand the other person's points of view, as well as their feelings, which is something, in my opinion, to take into account, because we tend to care only for our feelings, which is something very selfish, and we don't think about how the other person might feel, and we have to think about that. Thank you for having watched this presentation, and I really hope that you like it. So please, as I said before, click on the like button, and have a nice day. Cheers!